This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
We are back. Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It has been a wild past week and a half for me. Started out last week after day 199 and a half with Frank Scalish. Drove out to the East Coast to a media event for the Outdoor Brands team on Lake Hartwell. Got a bunch of pictures, videos, caught some nice spotted bass. Wrangled some nice striper. Actually, we were in the middle of a photo shoot and I get a call from Clifford Perch, the Golden Ram. And he's like, "Hey, how close are you to the bridge?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm like a half mile away." Why? He's like, "Are you doing anything right now?" And I was like, "Oh, we're taking a little break." He goes, "I've been hooked up to something for 20 minutes. So I said, "I'm on my way," because if you know me, I'm a big multi-species guy. So we rolled over there and he had his spinning rod, buried in the water. And he goes, "I think it's a big stripe." So I ended up getting in his boat. He fought it from a quarter mile on one side of the bridge by Green Pond. It went under the bridge, a quarter mile on the other side of the bridge. And on his active target, it looked really weird. Like you couldn't just see one big fish. It just looked like a giant ball. And when this thing came up, it was a 22-pound striper and it had about 8 10-pound striper basically rubbing up against or touching it. I think they were spawning or something. It was one of the biggest fish that I've ever seen. So anyway, left there Wednesday night, jumped in the truck, picked my fiance Courtney up at the Indianapolis airport, which we'll have an angler on who's very familiar with the Indianapolis area later. I'm a precursor to what we have coming up here in a second. Picked her up at 4 a.m, got stuck. Listen, Matt Steffen has been on this show. I don't know how he has a sane bone left in his body. I ended up going through Chicago at rush hour on Thursday morning. Got off of the highway and ended up in downtown Chicago in rush hour in my 2500 HD towing the Bass Cat. And it took over 2 hours to get out, and how I wasn't in multiple accidents. I mean, the Chicago downtown is not designed for big vehicles, let alone big vehicles pulling with the driving skills of the individuals in that city. Fantastic city, nothing against them, but something I don't ever want to do. And then headed up to this Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic, record $1.1 million raised for St. Jude, taking that total to over $8 million. Huge thank you to the BTL listeners who purchased over $5,700 worth of BTL and St. Jude Bass Fishing Saves Lives t-shirts. Adam Bartuzek and I fished that. Our team raised over $48,000 for St. Jude in that, and then we went out and finished 18th, had 21 and change the first day, and we're in the top 10. Mixed bag of smallmouth and largemouth out of pools 4 and 5 out of Wabasha, Minnesota, and then backed it up the next day with a paltry 16 and a quarter pounds, but still cash a check. Ended up finishing 18th, but the big number there is the $1.1 million raised. A lot of great guys. I think Jacob Wheeler has fished that St. Jude event before in the past, but Miles Berghoff fished it, Matt Steffen, a number of other guys. So we will have a full breakdown of that show later. Actually, Bartuzek, who does the Crappie Chronicles, filmed that. We had like a drone and 2 cameras, and we were mic'd up the whole time, which was the first time I've been mic'd up for an entire tournament. So could be interesting what comes out of that. But while all that was going on, there was a BPT, one of these cool, and we'll ask our guests what they think of it. I really like the split lake events because, all your eggs aren't in one basket. You have to be diverse. You have to figure out where you're going to practice, where you're going to fish. And this was a split lake event, the BPT on Chickamauga and Nickajack Lake. Justin Lucas came out of the gate swinging there. I know he was a little stressed out as to try to figure out what to do to put himself in the best position. But what ended up happening in that event, and we'll talk to our guests today on what they think about it. They might be a little bit biased, is arguably, and I've got a list here. We've got a couple of bass fishing aficionados on, so they might have a little bit of history on it, is arguably one of if not the most exciting finishes in professional tournament bass fishing history. Now, you have to take into account championships. You have to take into account significance. You have to take into account the type of... Well, we'll just bring them on. I somehow finagled the first and second place finishes on it. We're going to bring in Jake Lawrence first, fresh off of his first place finish in the BPT's, fourth place in the Angler of the Year, his ninth tournament victory. He's one of the few guys who have won at the BFL, the Toyota Series, the Invitational, and now the BPT level with literally a buzzer beater. He's practicing for the fourth Invitational of the season right now out on the lake. But I cannot thank you enough for taking time, Jake, to take a little bit of time out of your practice and talk about this epic BPT event that went down.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
All right. So you just went right back at it. You win on the last cast, and then you just go launch the boat, and you're right back at it for another derby.
Yeah, I tell you, it was really unique yesterday morning. I woke up and rolled over, and, of course, there was the trophy. It all kind of re-hit me again and kind of started all the emotions. And by the time I took a shower and brushed my teeth, it was back to work. It was a new week and a new day, and we're out here trying to figure out the stingy Pickwick.
All right, before it goes down, in case you were living under a rock, like I said, MLF has always done a really good job of putting out the clips and the highlights on their YouTube channel and covering it. This is a prime example. I think there is no other format in which you can have a true buzzer beater that is watched live. You can say, hey, you can't take it to the scales, but this is it. So I'm going to queue up, and this is straight off of courtesy of MLF and YouTube. I'm going to queue up the final 45 seconds of what went down on Nickajack Lake to set the scene. There's 45 seconds left in period 3. And I don't have a problem doing this with Jacob Wheeler in the queue, because at this point of his career, the man is going to have an opportunity to win another BPT event. And as much as he supports it as kind of the face of Major League Fish, this was good for professional bass fishing people. So I'm sure he was a little stung, because if you know anything about Jacob Wheeler, the man is a competitor, but he's part of history here. So Wheeler has 77 pounds, 15 ounces. He's caught 27 fish. He's doing something completely different. Jake Lawrence, looking for his first win, has 77 pounds, 9 ounces. He's in second place in this tournament. And this is what happens in the final 45 seconds. Here we go.
Jake Lawrence could still catch one. With 30 seconds left, it would have to be 2 pounds. Lawrence is hooked up. Has to have it over the gunnel of the boat before time expires. It also must be 2 pounds. Lawrence gets it in. He'll get it on. Jake Lawrence.
Are you kidding me?
At the wire.
Really just
has to have this one over the gunnel of the boat. Time has expired. He won't get it in. It might have been the winner. This will be the winner. Lawrence with the winner seals it.
Are you kidding me?
Just in the nick of time.
Oh, give me some of that blood. I don't even...
All right, there you go, dude. I literally, I don't have it. Look at my arm right here. I have goosebumps watching that clip, Jake.
That sent chills down my spine. That is actually the first time that I have had an opportunity to rewatch that, and wow, that was. I still can't put that into words. The timing of that, the kind of all that led up to that cast, and there's so much that's involved in that one particular cast that you really. I was obviously the heat of the moment, not really thoroughly explaining what was happening and what was going on there. So much could have changed or been different there, and to make that exact one cast out in a random vast eelgrass flat was pretty special to make that happen.
All right, well, I'll bring it back in without the audio then. So let's walk through that. All right, so let's get back to it. So here is the cast, right?
So what's happening
Jacob.
there?
Right there. Jacob is not, he's feeling good right there. So
That's
talk
right.
about this cast right here, 35 seconds. Let's pause it right there because it looks like it happened in the middle of nowhere, Jake.
It to be 100% honest with you, Matt, it did. So literally at noon out in front of my boat, dead off the nose of the boat there's an open hole in the eelgrass. So eelgrass,
so like in this area where I'm circling the sorry for the iTunes
Correct.
listeners, you'll have to catch this on YouTube and give me the double clicks. Right where I'm circling right here, hole in the eelgrass.
Absolutely. That's where I caught the majority of my fishing weight. And it was a fairly big open hole, maybe call it 10 yards by 30-yard long little hole in the eelgrass. And there were a handful of bluegill that were utilizing that, starting to make a bed. And it seemed like if you would let that reload, again, it was the only change or the only difference in that vast eelgrass flat. And so I had really combed it over to start the first period, as well as almost my entire third period. I spent kind of around that hole and in it. But I knew with it, say the last 15 or 20 minutes, I could not generate another bite up there no matter what I threw and which angle I hit it from. And so with about 6 minutes left, I thought, I'm going to have to expand out from here and see what else is to offer. And we got down to, 1 minute left. I knew essentially this was going to be my last cast to be able to get one over the gunnel in time. And I had an opportunity to make a cast at a new angle at that open hole, or just turn around to my left, kind of on the outside edge of that hole in the eelgrass and make a cast out in more or less no man's land. But my thought process was, I knew there were some more bass utilizing that hole. They were just wise. They'd been educated. It's only about 10 or 12 inches of water up there. And so I thought, odds are against me, but with one cast left, I'm going to throw it out here in the middle of no man's land. And I know if I bring it over the top of one, that buzzer rather, that they hadn't seen it, they hadn't heard it, it would be fresh to them, and I would have an opportunity to get him to bite. So kind of a 1 in a million opportunity with one cast left to throw out in a vast eelgrass flat and come across a 5.5 pounder like that was, again, you just can't put that into words. That is absolutely the Lord's work and something that was meant to be long before it ever happened.
All right, so I have it paused here. So this is the moment that you hook up. It also didn't look like it was like cast, squeak, squeak, bang. Like, I mean, this sucker was halfway back to the boat when it sucked it in. So I'm looking at this split. This we'll just walk it through. Like, so 22 seconds is when you hook this fish. And mind you, people, this is a 5.5 pounder on a wire bait, a buzz bait. So 22 seconds. So remember this, like, talk about your emotions about, like, right now. Do you know that you have to have this fish over the gunnel in like less than 10 seconds?
So I actually saw, unfortunately, the blow up is just out of camera range there, or the angle rather. But I saw her head come up and kind of porpoise on the buzzbait. I knew it was a really big one, and I knew it would do it. And I honestly, that is the fastest I have ever cranked in a big one, a 5.5 like that. I literally
10 seconds. Look at the clock.
It's 10 seconds. That's amazing. I just pointed my rod tip at her and cranked that Bates Hundo reel as hard as I could. And I knew, like, I made that conscious decision of I'm going to horse this fish, really overpower her, and it's either going to come off or I'm going to get it in the boat in time. But I just felt like if it was a big enough fish that if I gave her an opportunity to turn her head and get her going in a different direction, I very well may not get her in the boat in time.
One of the things that I've noticed with the BPT, and it's impossible because you guys you're not in the same like arena, right? Not everybody can tell. So you knew what the situation was. One of the things that I thought that the officials did, that the people in the truck did, was let you know very quickly, hey, you won. Like, you got this under. It wasn't like a 2 or 3 minute waiting game to make sure. Like, was there any hesitation at your part? Like, what did they say to you that said it's yours, to where you then, did the whole celebration?
Yeah, I immediately started asking, and I hope that I didn't ruin that moment, but it was, again, I was almost in blackout. The moment that I flipped that boat in, and flipped that bass in the boat. It was complete blackout. I don't really recall the next 30 or 40 seconds there. Again, kind of really cool to get an opportunity to come back and watch some of that. But yeah, they were extremely fortunate to kind of have the wherewithal to let me know really quickly there. I immediately started asking, and again, great communication. My signal in that particular area was not all that good, but they were able to get me the confirmation there really quickly. And again, just a roller coaster of emotions. With 6 minutes left, we all knew Wheeler was going to pull a Wheeler move and catch one in the last couple minutes. I knew long before it ever happened that it was going to. But for that to happen with 5 or 6 minutes left and to be a couple ounces shy and to pull that off with an absolute buzzer beater, it's just up and down, the most extreme emotional roller coaster I could ever imagine.
All right, I wouldn't have done this to too many other guys, make them sit through it. Well, like if, let's say you beat someone who's like they hadn't ever won, 3 Angler of the Years before and cups and the record holder for the number of BPT wins. But I was watching his emotion down here. We'll bring him in right now, the one and only Jacob Wheeler on the show. Thanks for jumping on, Jacob.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy, man. I'm a fan of the sport as well, and so I enjoy hearing those moments as well, and hearing Jake's perspective of like where he was at in that moment. It's really cool.
All right. So I went to the video quick with Jake, so we're gonna go back to the end of the video here because this is the other part that makes this absolutely nuts. So you got Jake who's in a foot of water, fan casting a buzz bait and landing 5.5 pounders in 9 seconds. But if we bring this back in, here's something that is wild because Jake Lawrence is going, what is it? Look at this. Look what you're doing. You've got 2 seconds left and you've got the ducket doubled over. And then watch this, right? How big is that smallmouth?
I know.
Like, did you get it in? Like, what happened to this fish, Jacob?
So I bent the hook out trying to pull it and boat flip it from 40 feet away.
So you never actually landed that fish.
I got it next to the boat and jumped off because I let it have slack, knowing that it was all like it was. I caught a 312 right before that, so it was like a I don't know.
That's a 4 pound, dude. That's every bit of 4.5 pounds, Jacob.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was nuts. I mean, you couldn't make anything up like that. I mean, I caught a 6 pound smallmouth in 3 over 5. In those 2 days of fishing on Nick and Jack. So I had a pretty good idea it was a big one, but I just basically all you could do is put your trolling motor at it and just go as fast as you could. I mean, I've had buzzer beater moments like when I think I got second to Kevin on Chickamauga. I boat flipped one with I hooked it at 15 seconds and boat flipped to 512. So I know you're like the odds of it happening, you're slim to none, but I knew that Jake was he's just a great competitor and I knew he was going to hook one. I just had a vibe I got to get back up there and try to catch a big one. But it was a lot of, it was definitely a roller coaster of emotions for sure.
When did you find out what the hell happened?
So I looked back at Phil and the cameraman and I looked and I'm like, I said, hey man, I said, did I win? And he just went, and I just dropped to my knees and I'm like,
how long are we talking? 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds?
10 seconds. I never wait for the official. I always go to the cameraman because they have them in their ear. Look back, Phil told me, and everybody's on the bank. My wife, DC's on the bank watching, cheering me on. And so I catch that fish and I was rotating on a couple places. And I knew if I let him rest, I could catch a couple more late. And Jake had slacked off a little bit and he wasn't catching them as good. So I knew it was the pressure of what was going to go on. It was anybody's ball game. And so when I caught that 312 with 6 minutes to go, that fish jumped and I knew it was a 3 3/4. I'm like, that's the winning fish potentially if he doesn't catch any more. So it was all of these ranges. There's a 99% chance or 90+% chance that I'm going to win the tournament with that 312, but there's always that 10% chance of things happening. So it was all of this range of people cheer on the bank. I catch a 112 and 2.5 minutes to go, and I throw it back. I mean, I didn't even weigh it. I know it's not a keep or a scoreable, but I know I need to catch a big one, so I fire back out there and fire. And it just AJ, a good friend, obviously Alton Jones Jr., he's like, dude, I've seen you in a lot of tournaments. He's like, but I've never seen you so intense in that tournament. He's like, you were in a different zone all day. But it was fun. I mean, that's what made it fun. Like, it was like, if this would have been Jake winning by 30 pounds, it's like, okay, great, hats off. But this is what bass fishing is about. Like, and I've known a lot about Jake, just him growing up and hearing how great he is on the Tennessee River and understanding of how great a fisherman he is. And Joe Lee told me how awesome he is. And I've seen how he's been fishing and how he's been competing. And I know he's going to be hell to deal with. So it was like, I really enjoy these kind of moments because this is what makes bass fishing that much more fun. It's the excitement level that you cannot just make up. It's you're pushing yourself to exhaustion. And that last week was that. Like, we had 2 tournaments, 2 different lakes, 3 days of practice, daylight till dark, had no off day. You went daylight till dark, rigging tackle at night, 4 days of the tournament, and it all comes down to this last moment. And it was like, holy crap. It was really cool.
Yeah, and also, you go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
I was going to say, it's the epitome of what this format is all about. And, again, kind of reiterating what Wheeler said there, you can't generate this sort of excitement, even when you have a buzzer beater, so to speak, the last cast in a traditional 5-fish event. You still don't know where you are. You don't know what everybody else is doing. I cannot say enough good things about this format, whether it's the emotion of you're in 55th place and you're 40 pounds out of the cut, or a buzzer beater super tight like this. Like, either which way, wherever you are, in the standings, it's so intense. And again, with every fish counts. Gosh, every event this year, and it's just part of fishing, but every event, I feel like there's a fish or two that I have lost that makes such a big difference, forward or backwards in the standings there. So it's really, really cool.
Was there were last year on the Invitationals 2024, you look at the top 8 in the Angler of the Year standings, and it was insane what you guys were doing jockeying for that Angler of the Year. There were a number of guys in that top 5 that qualified that opted to go to the Opens and fish the Opens instead of going to the BPT, especially with the new change in the format, knowing that you would only get to use forward facing for one period. Was that a concern of yours? Was that something that you thought about? Like, hey, maybe I like this, but maybe I need 8 hours of it.
Not at all, really. I'm fixing to be 34, so I'd
old.
love to. Wheeler, how old are you?
34.
Yeah, you guys are 10 years past your
age.
prime.
So we both grew up without any of this technology. I mean, I remember out here on Pickwick, where I'm at now, lining up this tree. I'm literally looking at a mark that I used to have to utilize prior to old school handheld GPSs and all that. So, I mean, obviously way more efficient, much, you're able to get a lot more dialed in utilizing forward because it takes a lot of the guesswork out. It's more scientific with what you're seeing, but I love going old school and swimming a jig and throwing a buzzbait, whatever we've got to do. So I was really looking forward to this particular format and kind of the way we have it. And to be honest with you, I still, I love the way that you have to figure out truly what's going on the entire lake. It's very easy with forward, not very easy, but it's once you dial in a pattern, it's very easy to run that pattern and stay consistent with forward facing. And so obviously 2 periods without, 1 with, you have got to have a fishing deal going on or they're going to run off and leave you. So I absolutely love it. Can't imagine fishing a tournament any other way at this point. I really like it.
All right, show us the bait. Do you have the actual bait still, like the buzz bait?
I do. I do.
Why is that still tied on? That needs to be that does not need to be tied on. That needs to be in the trophy room, Jake.
I know they eat
that. Has to be in the trophy room, hanging on the BPT trophy. You're gonna regret it. You're gonna have a bowfin smoke that thing on Pickwick. You're gonna be like, God, they told me on BTL to cut that thing off.
Yeah, you might talk me into it. I've got a few more berserks here in the box, but I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot of time, obviously, to re-rig, and we're covering a ton of water here, so I put me a fresh frog on and I've been chunking it around a little.
Walk us through the bait. What makes that bait special? I mean, if my memory serves me right, I can remember Jacob Wheeler's no stranger to the old toad swim bait on a buzz bait with no skirt early in the year. Didn't you wrangle a few on Hartwell in a classic doing that early one year, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of fishing a topwater regardless any day of the week. But yeah, I've caught a few bass on a buzz bait in my day.
All right, walk us through the buzz bait, Jake.
Yeah, so this is a 3/8 ounce Buckeye Berserk buzz bait. It's got really the biggest deal with that Berserk is that the blade actually claps to the head, real loud, aggressive, kind of a noisy buzz bait. And really going into Nickajack, so I only spent about 4 hours over there the last day of practice, and I saw just enough to know that there were a lot of fish up ultra shallow on the lower half of the lake there. Once you got away from the tail race up there where several of the guys, Wheeler included, were fishing, it seemed like the shallower you could get, the better, and the more fish that you would see cruising around. But once I would see those fish, they were not locked on a bed. They were really just chasing bluegill and kind of cruising around looking for any change or open hole in the eelgrass. Once you saw them, you really couldn't trigger those fish into biting. They long since knew you were around. And this buzzbait was a way for me to cover a ton of water and keep it as far away from the boat as possible while I was looking for any change along that shoreline and in the eelgrass. Eelgrass is very vast and doesn't generally have a lot of change to it. Very few open holes, more just kind of a carpet out there. And I'm a very high percentage, fisherman. I want to fish a corner, a hole, something different that tells me a bass is going to utilize that particular area. And this went into the event really just thinking this was going to be something I could keep a bait wet while I had the trolling motor on high until I found one of those little changes, whatever it may be, a bluegill bed or a dock occasionally, just something that I could cover a lot of water. It obviously turned into much more than that. I really feel like, it was unbelievable, that open hole where I did most of my damage there. I found it in the first period, that second day, the championship day. And I feel like it was so shallow up there. I did catch a few on a D-shad and caught one good one on a Cinco up there. But it seemed like anything that was subsurface, I don't know if it was my line that they would see or feel, but it was just, inches of water up there. And it was really important to keep that bait above those fish. We know with forward facing, you don't ever want to run a bait into, the mouth or the head of a fish, so to speak. It almost kind of spooks them rather than triggers them into biting. So I really feel like that buzzbait was a great option to keep above them. It allowed them to come up and attack the bait when they were ready, and really turned into being the main player for that particular day.
That's a valid question asked by one of our listeners, Jeff Gale. He said, I wonder if it stung more for Jacob to get beaten on a buzzbait.
No, a loss is a loss. It doesn't matter if he caught him on a dang Ned rig or a dang buzz. It does not sting any more, any less.
What's interesting, and I think you're probably, we had you on the show one time where I remember when I stopwatched how long it was taking you to catch fish on a particular body of water, and you were averaging like 68% faster hook to land ratio than other anglers, and it gave you 38 more minutes of fishing time, which you were catching a fish every 7 minutes, which equated to 4 more fish over the course of the day. I think you're going to have to start doing that when you get into the last minute of competition, because statistically, like, you had to catch one within 12 feet of the boat when you had made that cast, because when you hooked it, there's no way to get it in. So like, you're going to have to start making shorter casts in the last 30 seconds, Jacob.
I guess I am. I already made the cast before that I knew the money cast. And this one was like, even that one, like that tournament that I was talking about in Chickamauga, like I made the cast with 15 seconds to go, but I caught the 512. I just thought there was no way I could get the fish in time. So you just certain times you're just like, I didn't have my drag tightened all the way down, and it would slip 3 times during the reel, and I'm like, yeah, you're just trying to get it.
Is there a chance it was a 5-3? Is there a chance? I mean, dude,
There's
that fish
there's-
jumped.
there's-
It
there's
looked
an outside
so
chance.
broad. It looked so
I don't
broad.
want to. I don't like to think about that, but there's an outside chance it was. I know this much. It was a lot bigger than the 312 that I caught. It was at least a pound bigger than the 312.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, that's just part of the. I mean, it's part of the game. I mean, it literally is what makes it so much fun. I mean, you hook that fish and you got to get it in. And I didn't even know. Obviously, the Jake had one on, but I knew, like, as a competitor, like, it's not over, and you better get that fish in. So.
Yeah. I want to let Jake get back to fishing. I greatly appreciate you taking the time. I mean, this is 15-20% of your day that you're taking out of this. I want to ask you one more thing, a couple more things though, Jake. What did it feel like? I just threw the picture up. You've won at a lot of different levels. I mean, we make fun of the fact that you're in your 30s, which is old, but in all honesty, you're a really young angler. You have 9 wins in MLF to your credit. You have Angler of the Year titles in BFLs. You have invitational wins. You've won at every level. What did it mean to get your hands on that BPT trophy and the $150,000 check? And this is going to sound like sucking up, but beat that number 1 angler in the world on the last cast in the process.
Absolutely. Again, I've said it before. Wheeler and I are good friends, and getting to know each other better and better at each event. There is not another person on the planet that I would want to beat and kind of duke it out, back and forth in the last few minutes. It really made it that much more special. And I appreciate you being a part of this, Jacob. It's a really, really cool, unique thing. And look forward to us kind of growing together. I feel like we're going to be, this is not going to be the last time we're duking it out here. But it's all, it's really that feeling. It's hard to correlate it or kind of put it into words, but it's really the epitome of all of the sacrifice, all the hard work, all the time that we've invested in this. Jacob and I know him well enough to know that from a toddler, before he was really old enough to even know what this was all about, just as myself, this is the only thing that we have ever wanted to do. It's the only thing we focused on, probably to a fault. And we both appreciate our families and all the sacrifices that they make. I know we are both somewhat can be difficult to deal with at times with our focus level and kind of where we are all the time. But it really brings it all full circle. And again, with this being my rookie year, I can catch a bass. I've reeled a few of them in my life, but it's just confirmation that we're doing the right things. We're where we need to be, and we're making good decisions.
Yeah, and something special happened during the day if on Championship Sunday on Nickajack you catch an 8-pounder and it's 34 minutes into the show before that gets mentioned.
Yeah. So I wasn't, I try to stay as humble as I can. I'm not real arrogant, cocky. Don't ever want to come off that way to anybody. But when I caught that fish, that 8.3, 8.5, whatever it weighed, I kind of had an inkling. I was like, ooh, we all have had those days. Jacob's had a ton of them as well, where you just feel it. Like, it's just things are going your way. Even, you'll catch one where you shouldn't have, or, you'll get your bait unhung from a place and catch one, whatever it may be. You have those feelings, things are rolling in your direction, and vice versa. Look, to be honest, the first qualifying day, I had one that I couldn't do anything right. And so it can go both ways, but when you feel that coming on and you've got that momentum on your side, it's all that much more of an adrenaline dump and kind of key focus and kind of keep the ball rolling in the right direction.
Jacob, I got an underground bookie in Sri Lanka that takes action on invitationals. You want in on that for Jake Lawrence this week on Pickwick?
Yeah, I think he'll be. Yeah, I do actually want in on that. He's got. Some,
we'll chat after the show.
I need to talk about that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Guaranteed top 5.
Yeah. Anything else you want to get in, Jacob? Are you good for another segment? Because there was a couple comments that were stated that I want to go back, and one of them that says about you can't micromanage. I disagree. I think this is ideally, or you can't. What was the comment? Well, are you good, Jake, for another 5 minutes?
The fact that someone says that Jacob can't micromanage.
No, here's what Clay said. You can't microanalyze the last 15 seconds. Just goes the way she goes. You can, like, I am microanalyzing it And I will say this, and I've said bad things about MLF, and I've said good things about Bass, and bad things about Bass, and good things about MLF. But when something badass happens in the sport, it happens in the sport. And I don't give a damn what organization it is. I grew up loving bass fishing. I mean, I've got my life membership to Bass back there and a FLW trophy up there. But this format lends itself to micromanaging. Turn on any channel on TV, Fox Sports, ESPN, any of that. It is based on analyzing the last 10 seconds of the game. When the juice goes down, should they have called a timeout? Should the pass have been different? Why did that guy get the ball? Why wasn't Ovechkin taking the shot from the top of the circle? I can't recall very many times sitting behind this desk talking, with Jeffries and everything, where you can take a moment and microanalyze it and break it down cast by cast, and in this case, second by second, where it's happening live on it. That's what got me so jacked up to do the show this morning. Well, I drove 16 hours and pulled in the driveway at 7:45, and Jake was like, "We still doing the show this morning?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good as long as the computer boots up."
Yeah. Again,
anything else you want to get in, Jake?
No, I'm good. Again, man, I really appreciate you having me on, and Wheeler, I look forward to many more adventures. I don't feel like this is going to be the last time that we
taking a run at you, Jacob.
Get to do this.
To watch out.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to our next stage 5 there at Kentucky Lake. That's going to be a really fun one. Should be a great showing there for not only the anglers, but also the lake there. It's really coming on strong. A lot of new fish coming in the lake, and really looking forward to showcasing that one.
Jake, congratulations. Enjoy it. Soak it all in. That moment will live forever in professional bass fishing history. And I don't think I'm overstating it when I say that.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate it, guys.
Sorry,
Thanks
Jacob.
so much.
There's every time there's a victor, there has to be. But I feel like you've been on the other end of that like a fair amount of times. Like when I've talked to you, like you're Jacob Wheeler, right? Your brand, you do what's best for the brand, but your brand is better when the sport is better, and this made the sport better, Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 hats I wear. There's the hat, of course, the competitor and Jacob Wheeler, and then there's the hat of just the fan and the guy that just wants to see good things happen for this sport. And this was something that was good. I got the short end of the stick. I ended up not the ball didn't roll my way, but that was good. That was great for the sport of bass fishing and showing what it could do and to be honest with you, it elevates you. You do not realize how much you can elevate yourself by like having another person push you. And I feel like that's something that knowing that you're down by 10 pounds and he's down and all, it's going back and forth. It's like, it's just, you're pushing yourself even harder. And I mean, it was a really good moment. It really was for the sport.
You mentioned a moment, and this isn't talked a lot about in the sport. And it's even harder now with all of the different channels of social media and how quickly we forget things and how quickly we move on to the previous things. But so many of the brands, they're anglers, but they're brands in the sport, were built on a moment. And it's something that, and Jake Lawrence is that. You mentioned incredibly accomplished angler, $1 million in winning, 8 wins. He's won from he was part of the Bethel University, that first wave that kind of created the juggernaut of that. He's won at every single level, but he's a rookie. And a lot of people may not recognize the name, but they can't attach anything to it. So I think Brandon Palaniuk, 2010, 2011 Bassmaster Classic in that basin with KVD and Aaron and Scott Rook and Faircloth battling it out for the classic title on the Bandit 200 that he got out of the bargain bin. That was like and he finished like 3rd, 4th in that. Like that was the moment, right? Like Keith Poche in his classic when he was leading it, when he jumped over the sandbar on the Red River and was like, guys have moments. And you attach yourself. You've had that with your All-American win at 19 years old. And then the cup win and the FLW magazine title that said, what was it, like the next big thing or the next superstar or something. Like, so many anglers in this have moments, unless, and that I think could be Jake Lawrence's moment.
No, I definitely agree. I think Jake is very underrated. Like, he's a top 10 angler in the sport right now, and he's performed as such. He just flew under the radar. He's not very flamboyant. He's driven to go catch them, and he's making top 10s nonstop. He's making top 5 in angler of the year. I think he's 4th maybe or something like that. Like, he just hasn't had that breakout moment, but he's truly one of the absolute best on the water, hands down, bar none. And he's going to be a son of a gun to deal with for years to come. But that's all he is.
I mean, dude, I feel like kind of a jackass for not having him on the show before. I was like, hey, man, I want to get you on. I have this idea of having kind of you and Jacob on and walking through that. And he's like, dude, whatever. Do you, he's like, I'll stay off the water. So I have I'm like, dude, no, practice. He's like, I'm like, why the hell haven't I had this guy on before? Great interviews. I need to get him back on for another full show.
Yeah, there's a lot of great anglers that are moving in the right direction. It's just hard because, like, I get it. Like, there's a lot of great anglers, young anglers that you look at and you're like, gosh, they're good. And there's things that fly under the radar. I mean, you only have so many days, Matt. You can't beat yourself up, buddy.
I know. All right, quick break. When we come back, I do want to talk about what we kind of chatted about like 2 seconds before we went live, when we just started throwing out iconic events over the past 20 years of buzzer beaters.
Yep.
And we'll relive that. And then I'll let you know, you've been on the road. You've been just as busy as I have. You just, make $40,000 a week. It's BTL on a Tuesday, back in studio for the week. We'll be back with Jacob Wheeler right after this. Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarat and Lake El Salto, Mexico's 2 best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit probassadventures.com or email probassadventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top unarmed, Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, we're back. BTL on a Tuesday. All right, we were like throwing stuff out. I found a couple after that I just remembered from back in the day, and I'm sure there's been more that have happened, but last minute iconic fish catches that have been caught on camera that are kind of seared into our memories. Like, where does this, I mean, this has to be right there with all of them.
Yeah, I would say this is like by far during the live era of bass fishing, this is number one. Like, I just feel like that last 10 minutes, it's not even close to going from him leading, then I'm leading, then I'm, then he, 5 minutes left, then him catching a fish with less than 12 seconds left on the
while you're hooked up.
While I'm hooked up, there's just too much going on.
In all honesty, like, let's say you had another 20 seconds. Do you fight that smallmouth different if you had another 20 seconds? I mean, this is me asking you that. I'm not you saying, I would have landed if I had, but I mean,
like, of course I fight that completely different. Don't bend the hook out. Of course I do. But I mean, that's
what you did was a Ross Chastain move in NASCAR. If you know if you remember that, he needed to move up 3 points to make the next round of the championship. He put his car in the wall. He used it as a slingshot. He shot past everybody, and everybody went, what the hell? He didn't know if it was going to work at the time. Then they made it illegal. Like you said, just like Jake, like that's what Jake Lawrence did. I mean, dude, he landed a 5.9 in 9 seconds from 30 feet out on a buzzbait with braid. Like that's a low percentage land. And then he was so jacked up, he grabbed the braid with his bare hand on a 5.9.
Yeah.
Like that's a Ross Chastain move.
I'm sure he's got a cut in his hand to deal with that one for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
all right. Other tournaments. I see Clay mentioned it now. That was your number one was the Classic on Wiley.
My number one would have been the Takahiro moment. Now it's edited, so it's like it actually probably happened during a 45-minute period, so it made it look like it was literally the last 3 casts, but you could tell it wasn't the last 3 casts. But still, that moment was so iconic. It's like it was something that I was at that Classic, so it was something that was so important to me. That moment, just seeing Takahiro on stage, so like that one's a big for me just because of what it was. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. If you were to think this year, like iconic catches, it's the Classic. It was Easton Fothergill where Bass was going off the air, and then they were like, hold up, wait a second. And he's hooked up and he catches it. And he's a dude who, I mean, you do not hear him say anything above a quiet room level decibel. And like when he yelled and grabbed that fish, and it wasn't as close then, like he still would have won by like 14 ounces, 15 ounces. But that I would have thought would have been, I don't know how much emphasis, but he still would have won. But to me, that was still an iconic fish catch in the last minute of the live era with 4 fish in the boat, leading the Classic, barring a collapse, not knowing exactly how much weight anyone has, and catching that fish like that, I thought was really close too. But the other one that I think obviously you have to be up there is Bobby Lane on Grand with the 3
100%.
reways.
Yeah, 100%. That would be in live, to me, in live format, that would be second. That's second because it was like, it was cool, but it was like there wasn't as much flip-flopping going on. And like Clausen caught one last second too. Likes never give up moment. That was a very, you just don't know how, again, the edited shows are hard to tell. Did he have an hour? Did he have 30 minutes? Like these are, I'm going to be honest with you. It's hard in the MLF format where you need to catch one. Your emotion is so much more elevated than in like a 5 fish not knowing. It's cool. It gives you that much more of like an emotional fish catch for the angler in the moment. The crowd probably knows that and the fans know that. But like in this scenario, Jake knew within 2 minutes to go that he couldn't sit on that exact same eelgrass patch, and he had to make something happen. So he called an audible and drew up a play, picked up a buzzbait when he was throwing chatterbait, made the cast, adjusted, and caught the fish. Like that was what made that moment even that much more special, because he knew that he needed to catch a scoreable. He needed to catch a fish to win the event. And he made the adjustment. He put down what he was throwing. If he wouldn't have got that update, he would have never changed, I don't think. He would have sat there and made the same cast and called it good. He adjusted and said, I'm going to do this.
MLF needs things like this to happen to succeed. Like this is, in my opinion, when you're sitting around in a room in 2018-19 and you're coming up with the format and they're seeing how things are doing, like this scenario was on the table as, hey, we now have an opportunity for this, for a buzzer beater. Like this is something. Like there's things at Bass that sets it apart from MLF. There's things at MLF that sets it apart from Bass. This is something MLF can hang their hat on.
110%. This is what makes it different. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, this is what is so unique. I mean, everything, like you said, there's great things, and there's so many different unique things about BASS, and there's so many great things, unique things about MLF. But like, if you show that 7-minute clip to anybody that even knows sports, has no clue about bass fishing, they're going to resonate with that. They're going to say, holy smokes, I cannot believe that happened like that, you know? And that's what you're trying, and that's what MLF always was trying to do with changing the format up of like, how can we make something more relatable? And of course, like there's still parts of me that I still love the fish for 5 fish in certain tournaments. I love fishing MLF. I love Score Tracker. I still think that Score Tracker to me should be you should know that on the bass side of things, you should know that on the MLS side of things. If you are down by, you should know that. If in any sport, to me, that is such an important piece of a sport, is knowing the score and knowing like what you need to win the event. Do you need a 4-pounder to win the event? Do you need a 3-pounder to win the event? You're making adjustments on the fly. You're picking up a glide bait, or you're picking up this. I think to me, that is the biggest thing. But as far as iconic moments, that one will go down is one of the best, if not the best, in tournament bass fishing history.
Yeah. Now, it was kind of before the live era, but one of the craziest finishes also was Jacob Porosnik over Chad Morgenthaler on Toledo Bend. And Porosnik was sitting on a 5-pounder. Now this is the difference. So like he didn't know it had won it for him, but literally on the last cast on Sunday of the day, after he had a banner day, he finds this 5. It's finicky. He catches it on the last cast, busts his ass to weigh in, and wins by 2 pounds. It culled out 1.5 pounds. Like there would have been some things around that had it been live and you'd known what chat, but also the live Score Tracker, everyone would have done something different because that affects it. So you can't say it, but that was literally another last cast win. There was when Ike won, I think there was the first year of the Elite Series on Gunnersville. He like didn't have anything on the final day. He rolled across the ramp and just went whack, whack, whack in the last couple seconds to win his first Elite Series event there. So there's some iconic stuff.
It's hard. That's why you really can only like judge it from the live era, from 2017 on. Is really what you can judge it from there, because you really don't. There's not enough documentation of how it really went down. You don't know if there's 20 minutes, 100. You don't know if there's 3 hours. It's. I mean, there is like that would have been a great one though. The Porosnik one, I remember that one vividly. Like he caught that fish, and I was like, holy smokes! Yeah. Like those are moments like that. That's what makes it awesome.
Yeah, which I think Bassmaster needs to go back to the hour shows, because there is something about those edited shows that are burned into your mind to where you can see that. And when you have that long stretch of live, like I love those I know it's more money. I know it's a step back, but like, dude, like just an hour that like lives there to where you can go back and watch Kennedy on Clear Lake in an hour.
The problem with that was Bass always did such a great job with getting those shows out within 2 weeks when they were still relevant, or within a month.
Yeah.
And the problem is like, to me, like, I just don't know. Everybody wants it now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants it now.
I get it. I have talked with guys who run the live stuff now.
I get it. Like, I love them too. Like because they could set everything up so awesome and make things even more epic than they might look just live. Right. So it added that much more intensity to those moments. And I think that it's hard to add intensity live unless it truly just is that intense. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the toughest thing.
All right. We're halfway through the year. The dude who's chasing you're leading angler of the year. I don't think many people thought, I don't say many people, but one of the big storylines going into this year was, Drew's screwed because he's only going to be able to catch fish a third of the amount of time as everyone else. He is literally on pace to, I don't know what the record is, but on BTL, I'm Matt Pangrak. I'm going to call it the record for the number of top 10s in a single season.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know how you would prove that record, but with what he's fishing between Toyotas, Invitationals, and the BPT, his only finish this year outside of the top 10 is an 11th. Everything else is a top 10 finish. There has been no one else that have fished that many tournaments with that many top 10s. Whatever he has at the end of this year is going to be the standard record. It's like right now he's on like Thrift Watch. Remember when he had like the however many days of limits or something like that, and everyone was like, "Well, we don't think there's anyone else that has had more."
Drew is absolutely fishing insane. He is. I mean, did you hear what he did at Nickajack?
He idled the whole time.
I found out after the tournament to hear that. I was like, wow, he idled for two periods and then smashed in the last period to make a top 10. I mean, that's just impressive strategically, the way he's playing the game and understanding like where he knows what he's good at and how he's playing the game. He's a master at that. And I texted him. I told him, just dude, keep doing your thing. Like it's cool to see. I mean, it adds diversity. Everybody has their niche and their deal, and everybody, like, you know, Jake Lawrence is who he is. I am who I am. DC is who he is. Everybody has their deal, and Drew he's insane. He's absolutely insane with it.
Yeah. What else is going on in your world, Jacob?
Man, right now I have a couple of days off. I fly out to go to Academy tomorrow. We just launched a new line of clothing from Magellan, and then I have an inline review, just talking through stuff, and then I go get ready for heavy hitters. And heavy hitters, you know, I mean, Smith Mountain Lake. I've never fished up there on Smith Mountain, so 30 anglers. It is going back to the Group A, Group B thing. I think that is one thing that we've done on the MLS side that, like, with a smaller group of guys, I love the 4 days consistency. Like,
I love the split lake. I wish everyone was a split lake, Jacob.
I don't know. Listen, everybody will complain about that. It's very stressful. So, like, okay, this is the problem.
So we want to see.
I know that's what people want to see, but that's not what, like, it's a fine line of the competitors and the anglers. I was all for that. I was a big advocate for changing things up because I felt like Chickamauga, like, we've all seen that. And we know like it's been done so many times. And that's what's so cool about the format, to be able to say, guess what? We're cutting you and you got to go to Nickajack and figure it out. And I was even a big advocate to give anglers 3 days of practice, but a lot of anglers took 3 days of practice and committed all the way to Chickamauga to make the cut. And it's like, it should have just, you know, you hope that they would go to Nickajack, which, you know, Jake went and spent 4 hours there. I think a couple other anglers, I know Becker went and a few other anglers went, but it's just, you gotta, I don't know. I like the 2 lake deal too. There's some anglers that hate it. There's some anglers that love it, but I do like that. I think it adds diversity. It makes you adjust and have to not lock into one pattern or one way of catching them. I mean, like, look, Jake almost won the qualifying rounds against Lucas, fishing out offshore on schools of fish, and then he goes and wins the tournament on a buzzbait, fishing grass like it's like a mini Gunnersville down there on the lower end of Nickajack, and catches an 8 and a 5. I mean, it's completely different. There's 2 lakes that are side by side that are not the same by any means. And the fishing was completely different than what it was up on Chickamauga. So that made for a good show. It made for some really good content.
Surprise Skeet announced his retirement this year. I had him on the show like the day after he did it. It caught me by surprise.
You know what? I mean, Skeet is a little bit, but I think Skeet is so focused on trying to do more stuff with his Skeet Reese line of rods and this and that. And it takes away from that. Like, you know, he wants to spend time with his family. I get it. Like, to really be competitive in this sport, you have to be completely committed to getting out there. And you have all these young anglers that are working their tails off. Like, you can't compete in this sport by halfway doing it. Like, you just showing up, you will get your butt kicked. You absolutely will get there's no give-me's. And I think that there's a certain point in time in your career that you have to say, look, I'm not willing to sacrifice that. And I think Skeet's just there. Like, he has the talent to do, you know, if he wants to commit and go out there and pre-practice and do all this thing, he's gonna be competitive until he doesn't really want to. I think Kevin's the same way. Kevin would have been that, but he just doesn't want to do it. Like, there's a certain point in time in your life, you're like, I want to enjoy life and I want to be able to do something.
Tournament fishing is not a good way to enjoy quote unquote life.
I mean, it is, but it's
for 99%.
It's your family. It's everything else. It's the same. Even my little boy, he wants to go bluegill fishing here in a little bit. And I'm like, all right, I'm trying to, you know, I'm just going to go out there and get ready to get him out there. So it's just trying to figure out a fine line of selfishly working your butt off for yourself and your own deal, and then actually spending time with the family. So I think that's what it is. But to me, it puts a lot more pressure on me. Like when Kevin retired, and then some of the younger anglers, like Skeet retiring, it just adds that much more pressure on the guys like myself and your Dustin Connells and the guys that are flying the flag.
Because I don't care who you are and how much you accomplish, you still have that group of guys that's burned into your subconscious from when you're growing up. Like once you look up to someone like that, you always look up to them. There's always like, hey man, they can handle it. They can be the guy that carries the league and stuff, because no matter how well you know them, they still have a little bit of a Superman cape on.
100%. I call Kevin still to this day and ask him questions like, how do you handle this? And what would you do with that? And why did you do this? Or why, how did you manage that? Like, just to understand, like, because I think Kevin was such a great leader. He was a great leader. He tried to push for things and the right things to happen. So I feel like when these guys that you look up to your whole career, they retire, you realize you owe it to the rest of the field. To do your best to take personal agenda and anything else and just push on making positive impacts for the angler group and the anglers and the sport. And I think that's something that, like, for me in the last probably year and a half, it's just completely changed my mindset of, like, of that kind of stuff. And then with those guys retiring, it's like, it adds even more. So calling Skeet up and I had dinner with Skeet and spent some time with Skeet last, he was pre-practicing on the Chowan, and I went down there and I spent some time and ate steak and had dinner with him at his.
He knows how to eat. He probably had a glass of wine.
He did a glass of wine.
Big wine guy.
I am too. Red wine.
Really? Skeet. Now, every time I eat with Skeet, he crosses his legs like this. He orders a glass of wine, and he always tips exceptionally well, incredibly nice to the host or hostess.
Yep.
Like he understands the art of dining.
He does. He's a good dude. And you get to know these guys, and you realize everybody's a pretty good guy. And you get them off the water, and you just, we're all competitors on the water, and we keep that fierce competition level going. But like when you sit down and you have an opportunity to talk to Skeet, pick his brain last year, it was super impactful. Like for me, just to be able to have that opportunity to talk with him, because I never had that opportunity to sit down and have a 3-hour conversation about where the sport's going, what his mindset is, where things are at. And it made a big impact for me.
I mentioned that also real quick because I think this new format's working halfway through the year. I'm going to use the term old guys in quotation marks, but you have Rod Nelson in 6th, Ayler in 10th, Rojas in 13th, Mark Davis in 16th, Wesley Strader in 18th, Scroggins in 22nd, Faircloth in 21st, Takahiro in 24th, Brent Chapman's inside the top 30. Like, it's a pretty good mix there, Jacob.
It really is. It really is. I think that's led itself to, and a lot of it's just the fact of like guys knowing they don't have to commit their practice to doing that, something that they don't want to do. So some of those guys that grew up fishing old school, it wasn't even the fact. Like I remember last year at Dale Hollow, I saw some anglers out in the middle of the lake, and I'm like, "What are you doing? That is not your game." Fletcher was out there trying to do it. And I'm like, "Fletch, get on the bank." Like, dude, get why?
He's got the scoper look, but not the scoper.
You're not scoper. You can say you can say whatever you want, but your deal is on that bank and do what you want. Those are the things. There's guys that, and I think that it's even that idea that they have to do something, right? And so now guys are able to really focus on what they're good at, and that's what. And diversity of like fishing and showing that kind of stuff is what makes it. This stuff fun to watch. Yeah. Seeing Drew throw catch him out on bait and then go to the bank and have to fish differently. Seeing Drew, go on the invitational side and him catching him day 1 scoping pads and then catching him on a chatterbait day 2, and then the day 3 he has to adjust. It makes it a better viewer experience, and I think it you learn a lot. I mean, I've learned a lot when I've got a chance to watch that stuff. I mean, it's fun to compete that way. It really is. Now it's a little bit harder when you when you're out there casting around and you can't make the this was the first tournament that I didn't have like forward offshore. And when you roll up to the school and you're like, where like you're trying to line up and you're like, okay, they're over this way, and you're lining your waypoints up. All right, I'm 80 feet out. You make your cast, you don't get a bite, and you're like, I know I'm off just a little bit, and you're trying to make your cast. It takes you like, I mean, fishing a brush pile is like archaic now. Like you're like, I can't even. It takes you 10 casts to hit the sucker. It's like, that's why you used to drag a jig or a drop shot, because you actually knew you got into it and you're like, oh, there it is. You know, so it makes it more difficult. It makes it more difficult now to fish offshore. It does. But it's still awesome.
All right. Well, you got bluegill fishing to attend to. I know when I was at the age of yours, like, man, like if I was told I was going to go fishing, I'm going fishing.
100%. My little boy, he was mad at me. I got to tell you one thing. I had this box right here, and it has like a little BKK box. I put all my stuff in there, and I pulled out this like little. Are
you a BKK guy now?
No, I'm BMC, but I take all those hooks out and put BKK boxes. It is just a box. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah,
but I pull this out. With like all my BMC Nico hooks of my actual terminal tackle box when I had them on the water, and my son goes, "Dad, it's a purse." I said, "Son, that is not a purse." Like, hold up, like I'm out. So we got some fishing to do. That boy, he can cast a push button really well.
Dude, I'm all about the bluegills like redders. Like I was just up there for that St. Jude, and we're fishing some areas where there's like a mix of crappie and red ear and true bluegill that were like, you know, sunning themselves, and they were probably like 9.5, 10 inchers. And I was like, man, if I had a number 10 gold Aberdeen hook, some 6-pound test, and a little chunk of Nightcrawler, I mean, they're all going in the box.
I think they're spawning around my house right now. Adrian said he went out and caught 50 of them with his kids, and I said, I'm going. Hudson hasn't really. He goes bass for me all the time, and if I can get him out there, he's never even thrown a bobber and caught him on bluegill. He's caught him bass fishing, like just fishing around swim baits.
Oh, so you're gonna actually do the old bobber with a little couple BBs on it, and bobber's under, reel it in.
Yeah, because it's visual for kids. You need them.
You got it. Yeah, you got to do the bobber thing.
Like that
probably one of the sensitive bobbers, not the round ones. Start them off with a high quality bobber, like a thill. So you got to start them off with a thill. Whoa!
I'm trying to see here, like this guy.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, I have a little like
actually like met Mick Thill. I think he's passed away since then, but I actually met Mick Thill.
Bobbers that have rattles in them.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good one too, because it'll like drop real fast. Like I don't know. It all depends on how deep they are. He'll figure it out. He's never got to he's caught plenty of fish by himself. He knows how to catch.
You got a yard, right? Like with grass.
Yeah.
Have you done the hunting night crawlers at night yet? And then using them to catch, dude, you got to do that. It's like right now. So after a rain, you go out with the flashlight, and you'll see them crawling out of the hole, and then boom, you can grab them and slowly pull them out, and then you can catch your own night crawlers, and then I sold night crawlers when I was like 10 years old to all the people at church and all the guys at church who like fished and stuff.
Really?
I'll talk to you off air about it. Like it's a whole thing. Like I had a whole business. Like you had your worm boxes and stuff. So like after a rain, I would always be out in the yard at night, and you have to like walk real slow. And then the worm's like out. Sometimes you'll get two that are like mating, so they'll be like that. And then boom, you grab the double night crawler while you hold the flashlight with your mouth.
Yeah, I mean that would be something.
You've never heard of that. You've never heard of night crawler hunting. Please tell me in the feedback section. I would venture to say there's 200 people that are watching live that have night crawler fished. Oh, Jeff is saying it's not a thing in East Tennessee. Not enough worms. You think this was Midwest because I grew up with black topsoil?
Possibly. I've never heard of that. To be honest with you, I've never have. Like I used to open, pick up like rocks and grab worms under a rock and stuff for bluegill fishing, but never done that. No. In Indiana, I'm sure in Indiana you can do that. Yeah. But I'm not. I'll see how many worms we got around here in Tennessee.
Look at this. Everybody's done it.
I've done that. Yeah, that's like 5%. Nah, I mean, whatever. You guys, whatever. Okay. So I'm missing out on it. I'll have to We didn't. Okay. So, all right, you're making your point. I hear you. You're making. I get it, Matt. I get it. It's all good.
All right. Well, good luck. Good luck fun fishing and catching the old show. Are you a whole guy? Like, if you clean them, do you fillet them or do you do the old school where you cut the head off, batter them, and then peel it off of the rib cage?
I fillet them, but I'm be honest with you, the whole is the deal. Like, I didn't realize that. Mark showed me that. MDJ did, and eating them whole is the key. I think it is.
I told you, everybody in the comments, it's like a rite of passage.
Stop freaking trying to support your. Hey, listen, I can find a whole.
Did you not have any grass where you grew up in Indianapolis?
No, I had plenty of grass.
You never went out and caught night crawlers. Like, that's how one of the first things I did to bass fish.
Not at night.
Yeah, no, with the flashlight.
No, I've done it like under, like there was thousands of them under rocks. Why would I have to do it at night?
Because that's when the biggest ones come out. So then you go weightless hook. So the way I learned how to bass fish was weightless hook, and then you put the whole night crawler, number 10 Gold Aberdeen, and then you pitch it out in front of the like, we were the pond bass, like with the weedy pond, and then it's the Midwest ponds, right, that have it where there's like a couple 5-pounders in there. Most of them are 15 to 3 pounds. That red night crawler on 6-pound test is just squirming, and then boom, they come up and eat it. So I love that Nico rig so much. It reminds me of my childhood. I've cashed so many 35th place checks on it. No top 10s.
But you've consistently caught them.
Yeah.
You have, man. Well,
all right. That's it. Thanks, Jacob. I appreciate it, man. Right. Congrats on a second place finish and leading angler of the year. I mean, I didn't mean to bring you in for the Jake Lawrence show, but you added a lot to it. I appreciate it.
I'm here to support it, man. I love it. It's awesome.
All right. You'll probably win the next one.
We'll see you later.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, like, I have all sorts of cool stuff that got sent to me. I have like new swim baits. I have reading material. I have crappie bait. I got all sorts of stuff. We're also going to reset. I also got a text from the one and only Frank Scalish about show number 200. So we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. Tuesday, May 6th. This is BTL. We'll be back right after this.
Beatdown is efficient.
Rock solid.
100% American made. This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown double stack from Florida all the way up to New York. And the one thing that I know is when I get to my fishing destination, I never have to worry about issues with my graph mount.
Your options are endless with these mounts, but they're steady, they're solid. These are the most reliable mounts on the market, and you can't go wrong with a Beatdown.
When you're ready to hit the water, Denali Fishing has you covered. Regardless of your skill level, from beginner all the way up to tournament pro, Denali has rods, reels, and tungsten to get the job done. Check them out at denalifishing.com.
All right, back just in time. I grabbed it as BTL on a Tuesday. And big shout out to Jake Lawrence for taking time from practice from the invitationals to join us on BTL. Also, Jacob Wheeler, always a great interview. All right, the last week, week and a half, has been absolutely chaotic. Actually in town for a couple weeks now. 1, 2, I think 3 weeks now. First things first, coming up day 4 with Frank Scalish. If you guys listen to that, I know we have a lot of crossover listeners, some guys who listen to day 4 who don't listen to BTL and vice versa. But I just got a message that Frank and I are doing our 200 show every Thursday. We do a LureNet exclusive. Frank Scalish comes on and teaches everyone about bass fishing. $500 shopping spree to give away on show number 200. So 8:30 a.m. Central Time. It is the 200 show with Frank. Special guests will be there. Maybe the one and only. Coming at you. We'll jump on. But during that show, at the end of that show, 8:30 a.m. on Thursday Central Time, live to a live listener, I think to a live. I probably should have done the details before I give it away. Yeah, we're gonna give it away on our 200th show live this Thursday, which would be May 6th, May 8th. Also, got a really cool thing. I know I'm a little bit behind on this. This has been out for a minute, but Rob Newell, who I think of very highly in the industry, he's done a lot of work for a number of decades, a lot with MLF and FLW back in the day. Like, this dude is one of the most educated in the game. I think I said last time a top 5, top 3 guy. But he wrote a book, Egos, Logos, and Fishing Pros. I read the back of it, and it's not too often that books come up. And we've had Louis Stout on, who's talked about the books, Ken Duke, a number of different guys. But the back of it is take a deep dive into the weedy waters of professional bass fishing with veteran fishing reporter Rob Newell, who has covered the big leagues of bass fishing for more than 30 years. Retracing the sport's progression from the 80s to the present day, Newell tries to answer the question, what happened to the burgeoning niche sport poised to become America's next major league sporting sensation? Through his keen insights and witty commentary, Newell uncovers a series of deepening potholes that have created a contentious cratering of professional bass fishing in the modern era. Once bolstered by extensive corporate sponsors and $1 million tournament payouts, the sport is now morphed into a massive marketing machine of egos and logos, all scrambling for the same. Is professional fishing a pastime past its prime? And then it goes into a bunch. I have not had. I've perused it. I have not had a chance to sit down and take a deep dive into it. But even if you are not a reader or a reader in your life, whoa, there we go. It's a glossy book. It's actually like a real book. Definitely worth it. These type of things written by someone who understands how it goes down do not come around very often. So get on, order that. Also, if you know, the last couple weeks before I was out of town, Clay said, I read it in 2 sittings. Couldn't put it down. Said that book is good. Amazon has it. Before I left, So I had like a couple glide baits given to me, right? So there was the Lightning Strike lures from the Bassmaster Classic. Dude came up, hand carves a lure. He's gonna be pissed because I'm supposed to throw this bait, but Trey, I'm not throwing the bait. It's got the BTL stuff. It's got special insignia on it. This one's going in the studio. So I talked about how I've been catching some on glide and KGB and all that. And I think we mentioned, Kennedy and G-Rat and stuff. And then the folks at G-Rat sent me some glides, the Sneaky Pete, the Papa Pete, some of their plastics. Like, dude, look at these suckers. We were joking about the 5-gallon bucket that Kennedy had at the Classic. He was walking around. He's like, look at these awesome swim baits. Cannot thank G-Rat enough. I actually threw it a little bit at the media event at Hartwell. I threw the Sneaky Pete, which I think is the one that Kennedy likes to throw. But it's 8 inches, 2.5 ounces. Badass looking bait. Have not got the Papa Pete out yet. Then they have, I think, one called the Pistol Pete that's even a little bit smaller. It's 10 inches and 4.5 ounces. I've got, listen, I'm in Oklahoma. I'm not a West Coast guy. I'm not a huge swim bait guy, like big swim baits. I may have to use the catfish rod on this one. I don't know. I've got a 710 swim bait rod from Denali that I'll use, but can't thank them enough. I had seen these, had not thrown them, got them in the water. They look super badass. So working on shows for the rest of the week. I'm running on like about an hour and a half of sleep in the last 48 hours. But big shout out to the BTL listeners community. Sorry for the week and a half off. We're back, bigger than ever. Working on a bunch of shows coming up in the near future. Once again, big shout out to Jake Lawrence and Jacob Wheeler. And you want to talk about, now there's not many places that could maybe one up this MLF event that just went down. But Lake Fork is coming up to full pool. You've got a lot of major players in that Central East Texas area. Lee Livesey, Ben Milliken, Chris Zaldane, glide baits, live coverage, changing conditions. Bassmaster Elite Series returns to Lake Fork this week, kicking off on Thursday. And it could be freaking awesome. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for an epic MLF event followed by an epic Elite Series event, and it highlights what is awesome about both of the organizations. I want to be able to watch Fork and see guys weighing 5 for 39, 5 for 40, and going, that's why I love the 5 fish. Just like I like watching, Wheeler and Lawrence separate themselves and saying that's where every fish works. It's BTL. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. See ya.